Sometimes I'm asked why I haven't done any unboxing videos yet, and the answer to that is that I don't really get anything rare or unique to unbox that I feel would be particularly interesting, and I'm not the sort to film an unboxing video when a new video game comes out or a new system comes out that everyone's going to buy, and there are going to be dozens of unboxing videos up on YouTube. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that I prefer to use my channel for things that I know that I'd basically be one of the few people who'd think to put it out. Stuff like the Real Unova series and so forth. So I finally I've got my hands on a new release that I think is finally worthy of an unboxing. This is a new release most of you probably aren't aware of. I have a couple of friends that are nerdy and esoteric enough to be aware of this release. This is, as you might have guessed, an import title. It is from, if you want to play a little guessing game where this is from, it's an import title, new release, from an island nation. It is a very long-running series. It goes back way back, and it's really more known for a spin-off series. They've been a couple of games released on the NES and Super NES and Genesis. The last title in the main series was in 1996, and after that the series pretty much seemed like it was gone by the wayside, and it was sort of lost to time, like it had ended. But there was actually a surprise sequel released in 2007 that really didn't make much noise, and that seemed like it was going to be the end. And then all of a sudden I got a message from Amazon saying that a new title had been released, and it was going to be released, and I bought it right away. It wasn't even out yet. And then it got delayed again. It got delayed like a couple of weeks, and then it got delayed till sometime in late August, and I was like, oh man, they keep delaying this. Is this going to end up getting canceled or something? But fortunately, it shipped earlier than Amazon said it would by about a month. I don't know what was going on with that. So, and arrived on my doorstep today. This is the first import title I've purchased in quite a while, so let's crack it open and see what it is. Nice, easy to open packaging. And okay, are you ready? Da-na-na-na. Yes, the Railway Series number 42, Thomas and His Friends. I bet you weren't expecting this, were you? Yes, you were probably expecting a video game from Japan. I was being deceptive. A new release import title from an island nation, the island being Great Britain and not Japan. This series started in 1945. The first book came out, and I believe in the 70s, the original author, Reverend Wilbert Awdry, stopped writing the books, I believe in the 70s, and then his son took over through the 80s and 90s, up to 96. The last book came out, and then another book, number 41, came out of nowhere in 2007, which was a big deal. No one saw that coming. And then there was no more word. I don't know what was going on. There's some sort of all sorts of rights issues about who owns the rights to this or that, or issues with the publishers. I don't know what. There's a whole bunch of nonsense going on that I really wasn't following, but I got a surprise announcement that this book was coming out, and I went ahead and got it because, well, the series itself is nostalgic to me. I started watching the television show back in the early 90s when I was a little kid, and then I got into the original series of books. These books are particularly interesting to me, if you don't know, I'm a writer. I'm right now writing a sort of more serious sort of novel, but I'd also like to write some children's stuff someday, so I do actually study children's literature as well as adult literature. I've taken several courses on myths, fairy tales, and legends, and storybooks, and the Mother Goose Tales and all that. There's surprisingly a lot to get into and a lot to write about and consider when you're considering children's stories. And To me, this series, the original source series of what's now called Thomas the Tank Engine, the TV series was originally this book series called the Railway series, and to me, it sort of represents a sort of it's sort of our technological mythology. It's sort of a myth or a legend of this railroading and of steam technology and sort of that branch, sort of industrial mythology in a sense. In 1,000 years, if someone digs this up, these are going to be to them sort of what our stories of when we read the Greek classics and so forth are to learning about that culture. It's sort of be a way for them to learn about our technology and how we related to and how we sort of made a mythology around the technology we used. So I find them interesting in that sense, and plus they're very nice kids books. They're the interesting thing is that these are the author, and the original author was a railroader. He worked he was a clergyman and a railroader, and he would base these stories on actual events that happened on Britain's railways, and these are actually do make some references to the real life history. The island of Sodor, it's actually in the books is an island situated between the Isle of Man and Great Britain, so it has an actual sort of real world sort of grounding in actual history, whereas the TV show sort of gone on a sort of a fantasy, sort of quote cartoony sense, whereas these are actually you actually do learn a bit about the actual railroading history and some technical terms that drive some of the things in the story, when parts break down or different things like that. So I'm going to take a look at this for the first time. This book is illustrated. I actually have number 41 here that came out in 2007. I don't have any of the earlier books. I only have in the anthology form. And there have been several illustrators. The illustrations in this series, the illustrations are really, I think, what made this series so memorable, even back then and now. The illustrations are absolutely gorgeous. My favorite illustrator by far was Peter Edwards, who illustrated the books in the 60s and 70s, and his work is absolutely gorgeous. And these books, the Christopher Awdry books, who was the son of Reverend Awdry, wrote the books in I believe the 80s and 90s, and these new ones are illustrated by Clive Spong, if I'm not pronouncing that correctly, and he has a nice style. He's good with faces and stuff. I'm no artist, I'm just saying my opinions, but he has a sort of, sometimes he doesn't draw the proportions of the railroad cars and of different things, sort of change from illustration to illustration. So let's see. The Fat Controller welcomes back Pip and Emma to help on his railway. Pip and Emma, going to go into a bit here, but they're intercity 125 high-speed trains. They're just known as HSTs generally, but they actually have a real model of that type of locomotive, or power car as it would be known. These are some of the fastest diesel trains. These were built in the 70s, but I'm getting nerdy now. But okay, if I wasn't already. So I happen to have the model of that. But anyway, the Fat Controller welcomes back Pip and Emma to help on his railway. Thomas is delighted. Gordon is worried that his time as the express is over, but every engine has his day. Thomas makes an important rescue. Gordon proves himself important, a hero, and all the engines celebrate a very important event. So I'm going to go ahead and flip through this and take a look at the illustrations and give my impressions. I mean, it's not going to be some big in-depth thing, it's just a short little kid's book, but I'm going to go ahead and read this and then give my impressions of it. So I finished reading the book, which of course took only a few minutes. There are just 4 short little stories in here that should take a literate kid just a few minutes to read. And the stories were nice as usual. The illustrations were good. They're very nice and colorful, as you've come to expect from the series. But Clive Spong his style is still not my favorite. Peter Edwards is still my favorite, but the illustrations were great. And I'm reviewing this, but mind you, I'm not reviewing this as something it's not. It's a kid's book. So, and I'm judging it as a kid's book. And there were 4 nice little stories. There's a certain, it's not as easy to write a kid's book as it may seem. I've tried writing some kids' stories. It takes a lot more talent to write a story for children especially younger children, that takes their intelligence seriously, but doesn't talk down to them, isn't dumbed down for them, yet isn't overwhelming in more than they could appreciate or take in. So, and one spoilers here, if anyone cares to not know any stuff. This is even the interesting thing is the last story ends. My parents, said the prince, read stories about your railway to me as a child. They will never be anything like it anywhere. The end. No, in the 41 previous books, no book had ever stopped with the end before. And this book actually acknowledges the passing of Reverend Audrey in the stories themselves. Reverend Audrey actually, he wrote himself into the stories several times in some of the earlier books, and they really didn't specifically acknowledge when he died, and so and it's the beginning is dedicated to him, which is unique. That hadn't been done before. You know, the memory of Reverend W. Audrey, 1911 to 1997. So, and it's the centenary of his birth, I believe. Yeah, it's 2011 now, so it's a centenary of his birth. So this book was sort of made to commemorate the centenary of his book, and it seems that this is the last entry of a series that's obviously spawned a media empire, you know, around the world, and you know, introduced, you know, hundreds and, you know, tens of thousands of kids are like into Train Stay that wouldn't have been if it weren't for these books and the television spin-offs, me being one of them. So it's very interesting that, you know, this is the end of the series. So, and this is, if you have a nephew or a child that loves the Thomas Tank Engine books, the Thomas and Friends television show, you should definitely. There are a couple of anthologies with. There's one anthology of all of Reverend Audrey's books, one anthology of all Christopher Audrey's books, with all of them except for this last one. And if you have a kid that likes the cartoon, this is definitely something you should check out for them. If they like trains because of the animated TV show, this will probably get them even more interested in real-life railroading, because they do make references to several real-life railroads that you can, in fact, visit in the UK. And, you know, you sort of see partially one of the Skarloey Railway, I believe, is sort of based on the Talaclyn Railway, and those stories early on sort of retell the history of what was the first preserved railway, the first railway that was preserved just for the sake of preserving history, even after its role, you know, as an industrial, you know, entity had since gone over to trucks and airplanes and so forth. So that's my review of Thomas and His Friends and my mystery unboxing, and thank you very much for watching.